good day. You know, the old adage, you can't come home again, is sometimes true. Sometimes there are things that are changed, or simply lost forever, and you will never be able to see them or truly enjoy them again. The first-person shooter genre since the rise of the dreaded COD monster has been one of those things. The first-person shooters of my youth have fallen out of favor with these shitty regenerative health nonsensical idiocies of today. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. It would appear that mainstream gaming has remembered its roots. And with this game that we are taking a look at today, Wolf New Order, we can indeed go home again. Now before we take a look at this game, let's first take a look at Wolfenstein's history. The first game to carry the Wolfenstein name was Castle Wolfenstein, released way back in 1981 for a wide variety of platforms. The one we're looking at here is the Commodore 64 version. In this game, you have pretty much the same kind of objective that you would have in later games. You have to search through Castle Wolfenstein and find some secret war plans and escape. In this game, you must either sneak past guards or impersonate them, which is pretty surprisingly advanced for a game from '81, and you can also shoot them, but ammo is very scarce, and can raise an alarm. Also, there were voices in the game, which, for 1981, was just a little amazing. Beyond Castle Wolfenstein was released in 1984, and the goal here is to kill Hitler. Not at a cinema, but rather in his bunker. The game itself is more or less similar to the previous game, but it has been improved in some respects. The guards also now have a pass system, so if you don't have the right papers, things get real bad real fast. Then there would be the one, the only, Wolfenstein 3D. The first-person shooter that would give rise to all first-person shooters to come. This was also the first game I ever played, and a game I would play even to this day. I loved and played this game so much that I even made wooden versions of the weapons. In this game, you are BJ Blazkowicz, and you are a one-man Nazi killing machine. In this game, you shoot Nazis, but don't carve swastikas into their heads. And in addition to killing, you can also collect keys, and well, that's it. It's a standard that FPSs even today follow. Then, we got an even better game in Return to Castle Wolfenstein. This game was released in 2001 and remains one of my favorite first-person shooters to this day. It had great gameplay with enemies that were actually intelligent. And for the first time, they could actually kick grenades back at you. The level design was nothing short of exemplary, and at times even breathtaking. The shooting was also top-notch as well. And this is one of the few games that actually gets the Flammenwerfers right. This game is also notable for being the first game that I bought from my old Dell computer back in the day. The very computer that allowed me to play many of the legendary early 2000s games. Unfortunately, in 2009, Wolfenstein would reach its lowest point. Now, I'm not saying that Wolfenstein 2009 is a bad game. Really, when compared with other FPSs of this generation, it was actually more complex than shoot foreign man in different colored shirt. But the game is really just so lackluster. You can really tell that the COD monster has mauled the legendary BJ Blazkowicz. But thankfully, it is now 2014, a year that is definitely shaping up to be the best year in gaming. And now, old Blasco has downed 8 chicken dinners, 20 bowls of dog food, and is ready to lock and load and shoot that dreaded COD monster in the face and save first-person shooting forever. And so now, let's jump right into Wolfenstein New World Order. The gameplay is, well, in short, excellent, in more ways than one. This game really returns to its FPS roots. You don't just shoot various flavors of German here, rather the game has creativity! What a concept! My mind would be blown if this kind of creativity had not been standard back in the late 90s / early 2000s. Now, since we have the COD monster's face fully blown to pieces, we have big guys again. What are big guys? Well, in real games, you can fight waves of foot soldiers and then have to really think when the big guys show up. These are enemies that can take tremendous punishment and dish it out. Now in this game, the big guy comes in a few different flavors. You got robots, guys in armor, and finally killer cyborgs. So as you can see, the shooting has the potential to actually be and is fun. fun? What is this strange and utterly alien concept? I mean, fun? Sounds like some sort of strange German phrase of some description.
This is first-person shooting done right. There are cool and interesting enemies that are actually a threat, and you can't just sprint about and shoot everything in sight. Oh, you can, but you'll get your health whittled away and you will die. Now, the game also takes upon a new dimension with officers. These guys are scattered about a level, and unless you take them out silently, they will constantly call upon reinforcements. So while you can just run and gun, you also have a reason to stealth it up a bit. Now thankfully, unlike in Duke Nukem Forever, you can carry an entire combat arsenal with you. And you can have your basic pistols, your knives, your combat rifles, your Hand of Gods, also known as auto shotguns, and snipers. And holy crap, Talos himself must have blessed this game, because guess what you can also get? A laser rifle!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in a long time, we finally get some cool weapons again. Sure, a laser isn't realistic, but let's face it, regrowing your face after getting a rocket shot at it isn't really realistic either, is it?
Now, before we move on, I want to talk about how awesome the pistols are. Now, I'm not going to be a Boston and go, that's historically inaccurate. Instead, I'm going to talk about how awesome it is to see toggle lock pistols in a first-person shooter. Now, what is a toggle lock, you may ask? Well, it's a type of semi-automatic system that was used in the legendary Luger P08. And the pistols in this game use the same, and they look awesome for it. Now moving on, Blasco's signature weapon in this game is a big fuck-off laser cannon that he upgrades throughout the entire game. Now, this game does not have regenerating health. It does have it somewhat, though. Essentially, it will regenerate up to 20 points. But this ultimately doesn't mean much, because 20 points basically means you can take 2 bullets before dying, which definitely means this game has challenge and makes it fun. The game also has a perk system, but remember, the COD monster has been slain, so it's actually good. As you play through the game, you get perks, but you have to earn them. If you get a number of stealth kills, you get a perk that makes getting said kills easier. And pretty much all the other perks follow along that concept. Now, the graphics for Wolfenstein Neue Ordnung are even like older FPSs in that the graphics for Wolfenstein Neue Ordnung are even like older FPSs in that it used to be that successive games looked better and better, and each id-Tech engine required a more and more powerful computer. Well, id-Tech 5 finally looks good since it's not just running different shades of brown. Anyway, the music can be really somber and generate a great deal of emotion. And then you can get some hell yeah music. There is metal, and there is music that can only be described as Tarantino-esque. Just listen.
We need to move fast. The Lunar Shuttle leaves tonight from the London Nautica. You will need your equipment up there, but you need to check it as luggage. Not allowed in the passenger cabin. You need to keep a low profile. You may need a shave and a haircut. You certainly need some sleep.
Okay, this is something I found was a problem whilst writing this script. Essentially, I'm running out of adjectives. There's only so many ways and so many different ways you can say the word good. And you know what? I'm happy for it.
Okay, this is less a game and more a film. The voice acting really is film quality. The voice for Blasco himself is amazingly well done. He isn't some generic, grizzled and gruff soldier, but rather he's a strong but emotional man that is being hammered repeatedly by the world, and he's trying his level best not only to fight the Nazis, but also stay sane as well. And a note on calling BJ Blazkowicz BJ. Essentially, back when his character was new, BJ didn't mean what it means today. But you know what? BJ is so awesome, you can still fucking call him BJ without snickering, because guess what? He is the quintessential first-person shooter hero. He is one of the most awesome characters in first-person shooting, not only because he was the first, but also here, it completely tears down the generic Space Marine character quite a bit. It shows that when you actually write a legitimate character, you can actually get into the game even more. So essentially, no one snickers when you say BJ Blazkowicz. The other characters also sound really quite good as well, and each actor turns in a stellar performance.
Okay, I'm about to get controversial here. I mean, I used to do this way back in the day, but these days I've kind of stayed clear from making, extreme statements. But you know what I'm going to go ahead and say? The story for Wolfenstein New Order is probably the best story in FPSs ever. And I don't make that statement lightly. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the story because, well, for the first time in any of these reviews, I don't really want to spoil anything. This is a story that you must experience firsthand. So now, let's take a look at it.
The game starts up in 1946, and the Allies are losing because Death's Head, a villain from Return to Castle Wolfenstein, is using his science machines to turn the tide, even though this would be virtually impossible. But at least this works as an explanation, rather than just saying the Nazis won because they just did. Now, the weapons that Death's Head is making just so happen to be deadly, but also cool. Giant robots and cyber attack dogs! Long story short, the Allies lose, and BJ, well, let's have him tell it.
Head trauma, 4 inches of cast iron shrapnel right in the conch. Still in there.
So, essentially, after the prologue, BJ gets 14 years in a loony bin, trapped in his own mind, until one fateful day, the Nazis come in and kill everyone. This scene here drives home that these are not wacky Nazis in any way. If you actually felt sorry for the poor bastards you were killing before this point, you certainly aren't now. And seeing this really gives you, the player, an emotional reason to fight. BJ is now in the year 1960, and he must find a way to start fighting the Nazis. First things first, he gets outfitted in an awesome jacket by the parents of Anya, an individual who took care of BJ for the 14 years he was catatonic. He then gets some information from a local Nazi with a chainsaw.
Let me tell you how this is gonna work. I'm gonna ask you one question. You are going to answer that question in a way I find satisfactory, and if you do not, I will saw your head off with this here appliance, you hear me?
So essentially, he fights his way to Berlin and starts to rebuild the resistance with the help of a character from Wolfenstein 2009. She is awesome indeed, and the other guys in the resistance are also pretty bloody cool as well.
The story itself actually has 2 timelines, and the game itself, awesomely enough, calls them timelines. Essentially, there's a choice one must make in the prologue, and based on the choice one makes, the timelines will be different. Essentially, you have to save one of 2 characters. If you save one character, you get one cool character. If you save the other character, you get another cool character. And, for those that may want to know, yes, Jimi Hendrix does appear in this game. Essentially, you have to save the character known as Wyatt. But the other character, known as Fergus, would on the surface be the cooler character. And I, Generallotz, would agree. But if you pick him, you don't get Jimi Hendrix. And let's face it, Jimi Hendrix and BJ Blazkowicz fighting Nazis? Well, I think that actually invents a whole new adjective, doesn't it?
Also, there's a callback to Wolf 3D, in the form of a dream. That's right, they turned Wolf 3D into an in-universe post-traumatic stress disorder flashback. I have not the linguistic abilities to heap praise upon the writers of this game. So you do a bunch of fighting, and then, well, you get no context because spoilers, you go to...
What's your status?
Well, I'm on the motherfucking moon.
Let me tell you a little story of a man named Generallotz. He first started playing games way back in the 1990s. Started with Wolfenstein 3D, then moved on to Doom, and then so many others. Games, like books, teleport you to other worlds. They allow you to see and do things that one cannot do in real life. And then came the COD monster. It came and devoured first-person shooting, and ensured that games would be simplified ever more. But once in first-person shooters, you could actually fight on the moon anytime. Even Duke went to the moon. Wolfenstein has actually brought creativity back to a genre that has been turned into gray mush. The idea that not only are you fighting on the motherfucking moon, but the character you're actually playing as actually finds it remarkable instead of grumbling, "Yeah, I'm on the moon, but I'm still sad though. But I'm on the moon, I guess that's cool." It's amazing. It really restores my faith in first-person shooters and gaming as a whole. Because let's face it, how many games since the early 2000s do you fight Nazis on the motherfucking moon?
So yeah, you fight space Nazis on the moon, and you get to shoot old, of course, himself, M. Bison in the face, as all the officers have an M. Bison outfit.
And so, this is Generallotz wishing you good beyond Castle Wolfenstein. And good Castle Wolfenstein. Or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.